Hey guys, just wanted to do my reaction review to Supergirl season 3 episode 14. Shot through the heart. This is the first episode back since their 9 week hiatus because Legends just to have Legends of Tomorrow finish up their season. So they're just gonna continue from where that left off, sort of. Which I mean, it's kind of like more like a filler episode, but it's also like kind of more like a win-centric episode. It turns the scene opens with like a whole like they're having like this karaoke night at a bar or down at the alien bar that they always hang out in, the dive bar, which had them like purposely like all of them either like Melissa Benoist rapping, which I thought would rather her sing. Not that's a knock at her rapping, but when you think you're gonna do karaoke now, you just think like, oh, they're just gonna actually have them. They're gonna use an excuse to have them all sing and perform. But I don't know. Like most of them either sang off key, it seems like, and didn't really. You think you wouldn't really like show off their more like, um, not like purposely like at their height of their pop. At their. Some of them were just kind of like, oh, it was purposely bad to okay to like not like the best singers, and it's like it's a very musical cast, so I'm just kind of surprised they just went for that. And I thought it'd just feel like more natural, or at least be kind of like the karaoke night with Barry and Caitlin back in uh season one of Flash, but this was just felt I don't know forced for some reason. But anyway, when Winn goes up to perform, he sees on the news that his dad died in prison, and he's kind of just pissed off. He's kind of just pissed off, distraught. Like he doesn't feel any. He says he doesn't feel anything. He's kind of like going through this whole whirlwind of emotions, and James is kind of standing at his side. And when everybody goes to the funeral, Wynn's mom reappears, who he also had a bad relationship with and like his coffin explodes. It's kind of like you know but it is confirmed that he was dead. It was confirmed that he was dead and that the coffin was rigged to explode. It wasn't like it was like he was like still around. He was Toyman was still around. They were dealing with a copycat. And also and it turns out that Wynn's obviously on bad terms with his mom because of how like they haven't spoken in 20 years because um basically Wynn held a grudge against her for like not being there to pick him up at the police station for when his dad was first arrested when he was a kid. And it feels like she feel like she abandoned him after the whole fiasco with finding out that his dad's bombing. You later found out in the episode that she was under threat from Wynn Senior to basically that he threatened to kill Wynn if she ever went near him. And he even finally has a good enough excuse. Like he figured it was like, oh, he's just a simple threat. You could have gone to the police, FBI, or something, not just stay away from him for 20 years. And this even becomes like a revelation to Wynn that it's like he always thought is like, oh, my dad was always a good man, but then one day he just snapped, and he can never reconcile with that until his mom said no, he was always paranoid, controlling, and abusive. And she just hid that um from Wynn, and he never got to really see that side of his dad until until he became a full blown criminal. And then, but he was basically never a good person, or at least like he was always kind of expressed that he was always a screwed up person throughout his entire childhood. He just didn't see the truth. He just never This is something he just never realized he just didn't realize. Like the perfect image of his dad like never existed. And he realizes that he was also a man of his word because when they're they have like this scene where all these like flying monkeys programmed and like attack the DEO, and I mean the special effects were have like leave a lot to be desired. But when Win and his mom are working on the flying monkey to try to, I guess like try to get some clue of like what technologies was used, like where the manufacturer was. The mom secretly finds the manufacturing logo on it and takes a gun from the DEO and goes to confront the person. And it turns out that there was some. We never get her name. It was just some woman who ended up working maintenance working maintenance at over while Win Senior was in prison, and apparently he trained her to be a protege and also to carry out his will in the events of his death, which included, killing Win and also and making her, forcing the mom to watch, and by trapping her in this giant claw, and sending a video message saying it's like, you ever want to see your mom again, come and face me alone. But of course, Supergirl and Mon-El come with him, and James comes along with them. But you would think, like, and I know like the whole him like being Guardian and him like running around in this suit isn't especially popular, which is why we haven't seen much of him as Guardian. But it's not like I don't know what it is. You would think you would have him like throw on the costume, considering he had to fly off like fighting monkeys, and then they were being chased around by a toy car, which is with a flamethrower attached, and that it's like, and all these different like toys. You would think it's like, why wouldn't he suit up? Because it would probably make the most sense for him to do that. I mean, yeah, he has his like retractable shield, but still. Just thought it was kind of an odd choice, but eventually, Win Junior is basically able to free his mom, basically out with the protege, especially with when he used the bladed yo-yo, in combination with I think it was Supergirl or somebody coming in, or one of those guys coming in to like knock out the protege. And it seems like they're on their, and of course they're, after the whole ordeal, it seems like the mom expresses how much she's proud of her son and how he's been able to thrive on his own, and wants to leave because she figures like, oh, he's still mad at me, doesn't want me in his life. But then Win invites her to stick around and kind of start the relationship anew. And the other subplots was basically you have Kylie. Why am I blanking on her name? Alex, wanting to go have a housewarming for John Jones and his father, and they're having dinner, and they have an interesting conversation, which I mean, it was only brought up I think at like DC, and not really in the. She asked Miran, has she experienced a lot of challenges living on Earth, because since he's taken the form of a black man. He says no, being in isolation has its silver linings, and and she asked a similar question to John, and he says it's like, oh, I became Hank John out of necessity, but he decided that he liked this face and he wouldn't change it. He doesn't want to live in a world where he feels like he has to change the color of his skin just to feel safe or seen, or not be seen as a target. He'd rather change the world, which I thought was like I thought was a great line and very poignant line. And and I guess it was sparked by a whole conversation when Moran saying how a lot of like pioneers of rock and roll, how a bunch of how pioneers, they were black pioneers of rock and roll who didn't get as much fame, never got the fame and fortune of white pioneers of rock and roll, which is actually which is pretty very true. And then you realize when Moran brings up, you know, always wanting, wish, you know, seeing Alex as a daughter and saying it's like, oh, he always wanted to have grandkids, and and she brings, and Alex reminds him that he does have grandkids, and this is probably like foreshadowed when he like bought pizza for dinner, but forgot that John told him that they were like cooking, and she must have noticed the signs because she mentioned like, oh, she saw this in, I think she realizes that he's showing signs of dementia, or I guess like, or I forgot what Moran called it, but it's like the other name is called it, but it's basically the Martian equivalent of dementia, and she insists it's like, I can't lie, you know, I can't lie to John about this, like you're gonna need like help, and it's like, no, I don't want him to like you know, he's helped me enough, I don't want him to like you know, not have a life of his own, spending so much time taking care of me. And he eventually gets angry and defensive and basically kicks Alex out. And when John tries to ask her about it later, he says, you're gonna have to ask your father about it. And then he eventually tells him the truth, and he walks into the dive bar during another karaoke scene, which is actually during while Win and his mom are singing on stage, and he just looks like Saturn, and they just exchange, and they both exchange looks, and she of course puts two and two together, and she goes up and embraces him, and Mon-El has been meaning to talk to Kara about what Emra told him about lying to him about the mission they were on and why they were really in National City. Kara's like, listen, it's not fair to me, given our history, they keep talking to me about, you know, your feelings, you know, your conflicting feelings with your feelings about Emra and how you, and he says it doesn't have to do with Emra. It has to do with you and the world killers. One of the world killers you haven't found yet, Pestilence, apparently is supposed to evolve and turn into Blight by the 31st century. And I feel like an interesting premise, but it's like maybe if it was like a world, maybe it was like Purity or something, or like a world, maybe we already like met. I don't know. It just felt like if it was like we already met that Pestilence, then maybe it would have had more of packed more of an emotional punch. But I was confused. I thought that it was mentioned, and this is why I didn't upload my video before earlier, was that I had to look this up, and it's like I remember them saying the Blight were like a race of aliens that like wiped out a planet in like the Milky Way galaxy, and they were supposed to be a race of aliens in DC Comics. So the fact that he became like, now it's saying it's like, oh, it becomes like a singular entity, or maybe like, does it split off into a singular entity? Or like the Blight kind of like the Jokers from Batman Beyond, where they were just like named themselves after the original Joker? It's like a similar thing like that. I was confused by that. And and then we also have, you know, James was trying to get in touch with Lena, and she was saying she's been busy, and then you reveal at the end that she's been like monitoring and doing experiments on Sam, who's in like a hospital bed, but like in this like huge like chamber, for lack of better terms, and trying to like figure out, you know, chamber for lack of better terms, and I guess trying to get to the bottom of her, you know, Jekyll and Hyde thing she has going on, you know, with Rain. So So that was the episode. I mean, like I said, I mean, it was good. It was good in the sense that it's like it's nice that it feels like this show has like it's not getting too dark, but it's also not. It feels more streamlined and focused, but not focusing on too many like romantic subplots or lingering plot threads. But I don't know. There was a part of me that just felt like it was just weird for after like a 9 week hiatus, just for it to come back on something that doesn't like necessarily further the whole main story arc. So I don't know. I give it like a 7 out of 10. Um, but anyway, guys, how do you feel? But how do you feel about the episode? Do you like it was more wind centric? I mean, I liked it was more. I mean, I thought it was cool that it was wind centric. It was just that was just like I was kind of looking forward to more learning more, seeing more world killer stuff, which I didn't think there was enough of in this episode. So until maybe like the last couple of minutes. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.